Welcome to another edition of the Litigation Psychology Podcast, brought to you by Courtroom Sciences. I'm Dr. Bill Kanaski, a litigation consultant, and I got to tell you, this week was fantastic because I went to the airport and got in the airplane, no mask. It was fantastic to see people's faces once again. My only rant about that is, boy, that took way too long. Man, you got people beating each other up on airplanes over the mask thing, flight attendants getting knocked out. And so that only lasted a day. And then I don't know if you heard Mike Tyson, some dude was messing with Mike Tyson on an airplane. Mike just knocked him out, pummeled him. Rule number one, you don't mess with Mike Tyson. It's really unbelievable. So very special and return guest today, Mr. Doug Marcello from Bluewire. Doug, how you doing?
Oh, fantastic, Bill. And hey, evidently somebody didn't see The Hangover. That's all I can say.
Yeah, you know? I mean, you can't mess with Mike. I don't know if you saw the guy's face, but it did not look good afterwards.
Really? Wow.
No, it was really bad. Doug, it's a pleasure to be affiliated with Bluewire and the amazing effort that you guys have made in the transportation industry. We have a lot of new listeners lately because we've been speaking, doing a lot of training at the state trucking associations, and we talk about the podcast all the time. Can you kind of take us through, what is Bluewire? Where did this idea come from? And kind of the steps that you took to get this really huge, important movement going.
Appreciate it, Bill. Thank you, everybody, and welcome. Hey, well, what happened is several years ago, you probably remember at the ATA, Chris Spears said, we're going to declare war on nuclear verdicts. That motivated Steve Bryan, our CEO, who had started and had Vigilo, to say, you know what, there must be something we can do through technology in order to attack this problem. So he has gotten myself, Bob Boyich, our Peter Rowe, who is the Chief Technical Officer of Vigilo, and we focus on the problem. It's almost a year now. We launched last month. The bottom line is this: what we're looking to do is we have developed a strategic defense to reptile theory attacks by being proactive, getting at this ahead of time, doing an analysis of the vulnerabilities, and somewhat along the lines of a white hat hacker to what a plaintiff attorney would do. We're the good guys. We're saying, if we were them, let's probe for those vulnerabilities, identify them ahead of time, recommend resolution. How can you address those vulnerabilities? In 2015, the Congress passed the ironically named FAST Act that said we need a beyond compliance program. Nothing's happened. We've jumped in and done that. It was originally designed to be a private program. No one's taken up the mantle. We've done that. So we give recognition to your commitment to and investment in safety. Altogether, addressing those vulnerabilities, the beyond compliance that gives you the recognition, creates your true narrative instead of just abdicating it to the story that the plaintiff attorney gins up.
Excellent. So what are the for the trucking companies out there, what are the benefits to joining Bluewire?
What's going to happen, Bill, is we'll analyze and recommend resolution of vulnerabilities, how to address this. And the advantage is you face this many times in preparing people for depositions. Hey, the vulnerabilities are out there. We have to do it tactically in the deposition. The sad reality of our industry is we know accidents are going to happen. Whether or not they're our fault, suits are going to arise. So knowing that, let's get ready now. And so what we are doing is, instead of having to say, or address individual topics in a deposition, we've given you a story, we'll provide you the background. You can then go in and say, we've addressed these deficiencies, or we're working on it. Here's how it happens. Because as you well know from going through the book, The Reptile Theory, yep, Bill, it requires a systemic failure in order to have a reptile attack. We are looking to show how you don't have that reptile or that systemic failure, and address that proactively. Make it just a one-off human error type of thing that the reptile theory in the book admits that it's not designed for.
Yeah. Now I've noticed you on LinkedIn. You've been traveling all over the place, talking to various groups. Who are you talking to, number one, and what has the response been like?
talking to everybody from the Minnesota Trucking Association, Iowa Trucking Association, shout out to you folks, to insurance captives, ATA groups. And the response has been great. Because I think when people hear reptile theory, they go, you know, geez, I've had 17 years or 14 years of presentations on depositions. And, you know, and many of them have not been fortunate enough to see yours, Bill, which is really, you know, the presentation on the depositions. Instead, they've heard other, you know, attorneys talk about it. And so, you know, to get across to them and kind of see that, hey, there's another approach or a complementary approach to the reptile theory. So what you're doing on a tactical level, we're complementing on a strategic level so that between the two, we can put them together. You know, in 2016, the ATA did a study and found that trucking companies spent $9.5 billion with a B dollars on safety. And despite that, in all the telematics we see in the exhibit halls at the annual seminars, nuclear verdicts continue to go up.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is to say our project is, and our goal is to say, look, let's coordinate that, bring it together in a strategic response proactively, and let's tell the plaintiff attorneys with regard to this trucking company, this isn't the one. You know, go find another one that's not as prepared as this one is.
Being a deterrent, I find is very effective. Can you talk a little bit about the Bluewire Forum and what you're trying to do as far as because we know that the plaintiffs bar well coordinated, sophisticated, and communicate constantly with each other. They don't compete with each other very much. How Bluewire is addressing that to try to increase communication between companies, between defense attorneys, and even insurance companies.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that, Bill, because what we have done, if you go and look over the years at, you know, the different, particularly title meetings we go to, and people go, oh, we need to share stuff like the plaintiffs do. The actual report of nuclear verdicts, Steve Bryan always quotes page 41, talks about our need to share information. The first thing we did was set up an online community limited to trucking industry individuals, people in trucking companies, trucking defense attorneys, and trucking insurance representatives. That's it. Nobody else gets in. And what it's for is a free and active exchange of information, new ideas, different concepts along those lines. You can go to bluewire.ai, click on Get Involved, and you'll see where you can apply for it. Steve Bryan, our CEO, holds the velvet rope. If he doesn't know you, doesn't recognize your email address, we vet it to see who it is. And, you know, I'm not going to say it's going to absolutely be hermetically sealed, but we're making every effort to limit that, to make sure that we can generate this conversation that we need to increase our strategies on our side.
So, for example, a member could log on, they need an expert, or they have some sort of problem, or they're dealing with a specific plaintiff attorney. They could log on, post something, and then other people with that knowledge can pretty much help them, right?
Exactly, Bill. We have that. We have online events limited to, you've got to be a Bluewire Connect person to do it. Last week, Dan Horvath, you know, does a great presentation on what's the status of regulations and laws currently, did that and provided that for us. We got that done. So all of that together is what we're doing on Bluewire Connect, trying to bridge that entire area of information for them.
It's badly needed.
Yeah.
You know, as I travel, I'm talking to state trucking associations. The one thing I have learned, which has been a very eye-opening experience, is there's a lot of smaller companies out there, not the JB Hunts, you know, not the big fellas. What can Bluewire do for some of the smaller mom and pop? You know, maybe they have under 20 trucks, because they come up to me afterwards, after I talk reptile or talk nuclear verdicts, and they're like, but we're so small and we're not JB Hunt, you know, what should we be doing? And I don't really have all those answers, because I work with a lot of the big fellows, and now I'm starting to meet some of the smaller companies. How can Bluewire benefit some of the smaller companies?
A number of different ways. So in the smaller companies, the resources you have are usually limited in terms of what you can do in the back office, as opposed to the large building we see of JB Hunt or the other larger companies. So, you know, first of all, join the state association. great resource. From the Bluewire side, what we can do is directly with regard to you, do that monitoring that might require a number of people to do. By a monthly check-in, we can get the data and look for those vulnerabilities. The other thing, Bill, that we're getting a great response from, and these smaller companies coming together where they belong to a captive. What we're finding is it's great for captives because their success depends on the breadth of the membership and their safety program. So by the captive providing this service of Bluewire to them, that helps the entire captive across the board on that. So that's worked out very well.
That's excellent. Now, what has been the response from the insurance industry? Now, I've been criticized recently for beating up the insurance industry too much, but they do play a role in this. And I'm not saying all insurance companies are bad. I'm just saying some lack that proactive type of approach, and they're more reactive. And we know that the plaintiff's bar thrives off of proactivity. And again, they want to go up by 5 touchdowns in the second quarter. And by the time you figure out you're down 5 touchdowns, it's even though there's still half a game left to play, that's a pretty bad position to be. What have some of the larger, just from the industry itself, what have they been saying in response to this effort?
One of the first ones who reached out to us, Bill, have been insurance companies back when we first floated the idea early on. And we are, have been in conversations with them, working with them. But where the big response has come has been, like I said, the captives. In terms of getting ahead and being proactive to make sure that their membership pool is protected in this, and the brokers, because they look at it as an aspect of, again, providing that proactive protection, identifying the vulnerabilities, recognizing the investment, as well as being able to present the story, not just at the time of litigation, but also at the time of renewal for underwriting purposes and things like this, and say, hey, this is all this company does, and this is what they do. The most recent ATRI study on insurance costs said, while premiums are going up, people are having to raise their deductibles. So what you need to look at is the total cost of risk. What is that you're paying out of pocket in addition to what you're paying on premiums and your investment in safety? That has helped us in terms of being able to provide a means of reducing exposure, concurrently reducing total cost of risk, the less exposure you have.
Yeah. Speaking of vulnerability and exposure, particularly vulnerability, where do you see some of the most common vulnerabilities? This comes up a lot in my talks. Company websites really have a lot of vulnerability in the types of language that you're putting on that, particularly the safety language that the plaintiff's bar just thrives on. Internal policies and procedures and manuals are just, you read some of this stuff and you're like, who the hell wrote this stuff? Where are some of the main vulnerabilities that you see for trucking companies that are actually quite fixable?
Well, you hit on right there. And everybody's focused on the reptile theory. What might have been more impactful but less discussed, although it's tangential to the reptile theory, is the rules of the road.
Yeah.
And where they write your own words and turn around and try to jam one. Some of the other things and what we're looking at are different vulnerabilities that might not be as apparent or not viewed by the trucking company. For example, with regard to hours of service, it's not just the 11 and 14 hours, but it is, those things that may be indicative of an issue on it, such as personal conveyance time and unassigned time, where there might be an issue that the plaintiff attorneys try to come up. So those are among the things that we're looking at. Now, one of the things we've run into is that a lot of companies or individuals in company who are involved in risk management or in-house counsel are going like, well, yeah, but if we do this analysis, it may be discoverable. Well, the underlying data is discoverable to start with.
Yeah.
So the question is, who's going to write the story? Are you going to get ahead of it and write your narrative, or are you going to hunker down, hope that it's not found, and hope's not a strategy, and advocate it again to the plaintiff's attorney? I call it the discovery fallacy. Yeah. And the fallacy is, well, if we don't do it, nobody will. You pointed out at the ATA litigation seminar last year how the American College of Trucking Attorneys, the new plaintiffs group, is teaching courses on this. You go to their website, their 2021 seminar goes through, and there is a number of classes. One of them is called Trucks, a treasure trove of data, and down through that. And we got to get ahead of this. It's going to be found. We need to identify the key points, the key metrics, and then address those ahead of time.
Yeah, and another kind of disturbing factor that, and I know it's happening because I've seen it. If you look hard enough, you'll find it. Is you have plaintiff law firms paying to have their attorneys go get their own CDLs.
Oh yeah, it's more common than defense attorneys.
Yeah.
There are very few. I know of a firm, I think in St. Louis, that did it en masse. Other than that, my law partner and I are some of the few that actually have our CDLs. Plaintiff attorneys aren't losing billable hours to spend time doing it, Bill.
Exactly.
Is part of it, but it is for myself. I know that it's been invaluable. I don't have much of a mechanical background. That helped me greatly in terms of understanding what I needed to do to pass it in order to do a pre-trip inspection, brake pressurization, that type of thing. Plus, it also gave me a great awareness in terms of the road driving. What issues come up that you don't really think about. Particularly back in the days when we had to change gears ourselves. I guess I've had my CDL now about 18 years.
Oh wow!
So that was the pre-automatic days. So and kudos to my law partner who never drove a standard shift before she drove an 18-wheeler. So yes.
Yeah, my kids don't even know what a stick shift is or a clutch. They're like, what is that? And another topic that's come up, which has gotten a lot of attention when we're traveling around speaking to these trucking organizations, is the importance of having a crisis management plan or a rapid response plan. And shockingly, I was shocked that a lot of companies really don't have a sophisticated plan. It's kind of loose, and we at Courtroom Sciences, one of my colleagues, Sean Murphy, specializes in this to essentially predict bad things happening. And what are you going to do? And particularly with Sean, because he does a lot of the media training stuff. What do you say? Who do you talk? Who do you not talk to? Can you talk about the importance of having that plan so when something bad happens, you're hitting the ground running? And because I think most people that don't have a plan, or most companies, everybody's terrified, right? Everybody's hair is on fire, and a lot of very damaging mistakes can get made early on in a case.
Yeah, I use the analogy for an emergency response, accident response. Think about it. You're a football coach. Your team has the ball on the other team's 3-yard line, seconds remaining. You need to score a touchdown to win. That's not the time you're going to start to draw up the play,
No.
Decide who's going to run it, and try to find them on the bench. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. Your call comes in. That's when the accident happens. That's not the time to draw up your accident response plan, decide who's going to respond, and try to find them in the middle of the night. And what we're looking at on Bluewire is even to go further, to address the vulnerabilities that are going to go beyond the accident, the systemic things beyond just the accident facts on it. So it's a combination. And what we're looking to do and what we're doing is to develop that narrative so that at the time of the accident, you have the narrative to present to, be it the media or whomever, on the true story of your company on that.
Absolutely.
So I use the analogy with regard to the systemic to overuse a football analogy. If you haven't gotten ahead of your data and developed a systemic response to it and show no systemic damage, it's like showing up at the game and go, you know what, we're not going to scout the other team. Let's line up and see what's going to happen. And nobody would ever think of doing that, but not even this Jacksonville Jaguars since they got rid of Urban Meyer. So
poor Urban. All right, let's wrap this up. So Bluewire's come a long way, increasing your membership. I know that's probably the main push right now is increasing membership. Where do you see this a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? What's the ultimate goal here?
I think what we're looking to do is, Bill, for 40 years now, I have been fighting and winning the battles case by case. We're looking to win the damn war.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is to get this out, get it in place, be it through brokers, insurers, or individual trucking companies, so that they can identify and cure these systemic issues, take that away, suck the air out of that, and an accident's an accident. It's not a misuse of other alleged systemic failures, and do that and get that out to the industry.
Outstanding. Well, tell the audience again the website and that address so they can go check out Bluewire.
Bluewire.ai for artificial intelligence. Bluewire.ai. Check out the Get Involved. Go to Bluewire Connect. Send in your application on that.
Outstanding. Doug, it's always great to have you on the show, and you and I will see each other soon. I see the We Are right behind you, Penn State. I unfortunately on Monday night watched the introduction special to the Joe Paterno documentary. Boy, it's so it's just mind-boggling what happened, and it's hard to. My whole family went to Penn State, so. But hopefully they'll have a what do they say? What are they saying? Do you guys have the spring football game yet?
Tomorrow. I
got
the whole family's here right now. I got my daughters are coming, my son-in-law's here, the grandkids are here. Blue and white game tomorrow. So we'll all be out there. Yeah.
That'll be a big deal. As you know, my 8th seed Tar Heels went all the way and got to the championship game and just couldn't hang on at the end. But boy, beating Duke twice. By the way, I just want to make this clear, Doug. Coach K's first loss of his career against North Carolina. His last loss at home was to North Carolina, and his last loss of his career in the Final Four, no less. North Carolina. I'm not on cloud 9. I'm on cloud 10.
Yeah.
Maybe even 11.
Amazing run at the end. Bill, I was hoping for good things from him because, same thing with Carhill basketball. We have, Jeff Lebo here from Carlisle. So we've always been a long time fan, and he's there on the bench, back on the bench, and God bless Hubert. I mean, what a story. I remember when he came on the team, everybody knew him as Walter's nephew, I think it was, or cousin. And went the whole way through, played in the league, and now he's coaching, and just an incredible year. Incredible run by everybody there. So.
Incredible year. Well, Doug, thank you so much for being on the show. And to our audience, thank you again for participating in another edition of the Litigation Psychology Podcast. I am Dr. Bill Kanaski. We will see you next time.